It is recording.
Can you hear us now, Roscoe? Well, if there wouldn't be some problems, it wouldn't be an Alliance Guys podcast. So let me do it again. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm your host, J Cal. With me is Len. He is making this all possible by giving us access to Zoom. And with us on the show, we also join with Lamb, who runs the social media account Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Fans, who covers the NWA and, of course, the affiliates of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. We have All Japan Stan, who, as his name implies, is a fan of All Japan, and as well as the National Wrestling Alliance. And we do have volume now, so that's good. And guys, I'm really excited because this is the first time that we've done a Zoom chat that is all about the Talk NWA. And of course, tonight at 6:05, just a short hour from now, the NWA is going to run an encore presentation of the night that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood took the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship to the People's Republic of China. Now, I was actually at that event, and it was an exciting night for wrestling. It was a historic night for wrestling. That's why I was there. Of course, the matches had several matches that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood aired. I do believe that this was already released once from the NWA as part of the 10 pounds of gold package. But I think it's pretty cool that they're going to showcase that match in China, because up until that point, that was the biggest moment in the NWA for Billy Corgan's vision of the NWA. Stan, what do you think about this show showcasing the match from 2 years ago?
Well, it's about time because since the NWA pretty much started back up, if you're trying to get back into it again, you will only think that the title's been defended at the studio.
Yeah.
You really don't know how many times Nick Aldis defended the title, so I think it's a little more exposure for the company, and maybe based off of this, they will show more title defenses that was going on during the new ownership.
Lamb, you're a big fan of the NWA and of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. What were your thoughts on this match taking place?
It was interesting to see how Chinese people who are not familiar with wrestling at all react to that. I mean, you were there, and you said that the fans were really into it.
Yeah, And as we've had Dave Marquez on a few podcasts that never made it to air, but one thing that he kept pushing is that not only did the people not understand, the fans in attendance, but on a production aspect, they didn't really understand how to shoot pro wrestling. So a lot of what you see is unfortunately their version of the story, but in terms of just where you put the fans, they didn't want to have fans really close to ringside, which in the United States, I mean, that's the premier place to sit is in the ringside area. So it really changes the dynamic when the fans aren't that close. Now, they were by the entranceway, which looked great coming on TV, but then when you are watching the show, and you guys will see tonight if you watch at 6:05 on the YouTube channel for the NWA, you don't really see a lot of people ringside. And just trying to connect with the fan base, again, they're not used to pro wrestling, so they're not used to the idea of cheering for the good guy, booing for the bad guy. In fact, Marquez even told me in the interview that never aired that the people thought Nick Aldis was an American because they never heard him speak before. So when he started speaking and he had a British accent, they were a little confused, like, why does this American speak with a British accent? It kind of threw him off. Len, what did you think about that match? I mean, I know you weren't in China for it, but I'm pretty sure you've seen that match, whether it was from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood or the first time around on the 10 Pounds of Gold.
Well, what you see is that sporting events such as wrestling does bridge very different cultures and things. I mean, this was a great aspect to bring something into that, but at the same time, it's still something that can be culturally accepted across many different nations. I mean, you can see the appreciation when you watch shows such as New Japan of just how the fans are just treat them like huge celebrities. I mean, the difference being with Americanized wrestling versus that is it's treated more like a sport. So hopefully we'll be seeing more shows like that in the future in China and other countries as well.
Now, in the YouTube chat, because we are streaming this live, not only if you are part of the Zoom channel, you can interact with us, and that access is available. If you're on Twitter, just go ahead and follow that link in. But Roscoe in the chat room has asked, or actually said that he wanted to see the Barbie Hayden versus Heather Monroe match as well. For that, my friend, you might want to go to the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood YouTube page, because they aired that just in the last 2 weeks or so. And they aired all three matches, the Heather Monroe versus Barbie Hayden, the tag team match, which was the Reno Scum, who are now with Impact Wrestling, versus Watts, who is your Hollywood Heritage Champion, and Alex Chamberlain, who he's been around everywhere. That match is also included, so I would recommend checking that out. One of the things that I noticed while I was there culturally about the pro wrestling is, again, the fans really didn't understand it, but the way that they wanted to latch on, they wanted to connect with those wrestlers. When I was just with the wrestlers during that trip, we would be eating breakfast at the hotel's buffet in the morning, and the looks that the guys like Reno Scum would get, they're covered in tattoos. Lester the Legend has a mohawk. He's probably close to 6'9", 6'10". Both of them are big burly dudes, and you would see that the people would just like walk the other way when they came walking in. Also, Watts, who is close to, like, I think he's like 6'10", 6'9", something like that. When he came in as an African American male, guys who were African American in China, so it was definitely a culture shock. But the fans during the event got right behind these guys, and they were chanting "Oi, oi, oi," which, in the United States we know that's a punk rock thing. It's connects with that punk rock audience, but for a fan base that really doesn't know, they were ready to latch on, and Watts would get the fans to say "Champions Forever," and the fans would kind of correlate with that. And it was really interesting sitting there on the side of the ring taking photos and hearing the fans really get into it. I really thought that was interesting. And I for a sport that, again, it's been oversaturated in the United States. Japan knows how to do wrestling. Canada knows how to do wrestling. Mexico knows how to do wrestling. You have all these countries, Germany, the UK. I mean, wrestling is everywhere. But in China, it's still such a new thing that it was really interesting to see some of the fans jump into it. And even if you go to the Alliance, at the Alliance blog on Instagram, there's a photo of a fan who was in attendance who had his own 10 pounds of gold. In fact, it looked even better than mine. And he told Dave Marquez and myself that he paid $500 Chinese. I don't know what the dollar is called there in China, but he spent that a much amount on that belt, and I think that's just crazy. But it's awesome, but just crazy. I just want to hit these comments real quick that are in the YouTube page, so bear with me, guys. Roscoe said apparently it's on Fight. Roscoe says, a question I have for you guys. Colt Cabana seemed like a perfect opponent for the old NWA to new NWA transition that was available in the market. Do you guys think there's any other guys? So the question is, for the four of you or three of you that are on here, and we'll start with you, Len, was Colt Cabana the best choice to bridge the gap from the old NWA to the new NWA, or is there somebody else you would have liked to seen in that position?
I think Colt Cabana is a great position for that because he is well known for his talent throughout the Indies, as well as his ability to really get the audience into the match. Because even though a lot of people are not very big on the comical style that he may go through, he is a very talented wrestler. At the same time, just him being comical does make people interested in the match. So I think with him being used to that, also being in front of different audiences from around the world, he's a great one to bridge that gap. I mean, granted, a lot of people that watch mainstream wrestling and doesn't know him as well as some of us do that's been watching this, but I think just what he brings really does get people interested because he's entertaining. And that's what this is all about, is being entertaining to draw an audience.
Lamb, I'm going to pose the same question to you, sir. Of all the champions that you are familiar with from the NWA's past, was there anybody who would be better for that position that Colt Cabana had in the old NWA guard? Is there anybody else you would have liked to have seen in that position?
It's very hard to answer because I think Colt Cabana was the right choice because I don't know how many fans know Jack Stane at the time.
Sure.
Or Tim. Well, they know Tim Stone because of a 10 pounds of gold series, but Jack Stane would be on. And the free agent market at the time was difficult because Eli Drake was still signed to Impact Wrestling and was the World Heavyweight Champion back then. There weren't so many champions, I think, who would have been in this position to be that guy. So I think with Colt Cabana, it was the right choice for this transition.
And of course, All Japan, Stan. Let me get the name right. What were your thoughts? Who do you think could have been a better choice, or do you think Colt Cabana was the right choice to bridge the gap from the old NWA to the new NWA?
Yes, I agree also. He's a former champion. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. I wish that when he wrestles in NWA, it would be technical